Hi there, welcome back to Mind-Body Relationship, where we talk about the mind, the body, and the relationship. Hi, my name is Emerald Hill, and this is Dr. Laurie Hill, and today we're talking about monster-in-law.
Woo!
Yeah.
You know, this was quite an interesting movie in regards to relationship, right?
Yeah.
So we have not only the mother and the son,
Right.
but we have the relationship between a son and his girlfriend who turns into wife.
Right.
And the relationship between mom and girlfriend that turns into wife.
Right.
The relationship between mom and her support system, her maid.
Her assistant.
Right? And then not only that, between mom and her mother-in-law. So we have all of these relationships going on.
So many.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, a lot.
Yeah,
right?
I think the most prominent one is obviously the one between Jane Fonda and J-Lo. But I think the one that struck out to me the most was how disturbing the relationship between Jane Fonda and the doctor's son was. I think she called him like 10 times a day. Something like that. Multiple times a day.
Yes. Her and her son were enmeshed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they were into one another's business. The truth of the matter is that they were close.
Right.
Son took actually really the place of a dad.
Right.
Who had died.
Right.
Right? And so the relationship was actually really supportive of one another, being present to one another without any interference.
Right.
Right? Yes. And so then what happens, of course, in that kind of relationship is that it's actually really two people playing off of one another.
Right.
It's not actually really caused by one person.
No.
It's not caused by the mom.
No.
Right? It's the son actually really playing into it.
Yeah.
And so he becomes the support system.
Yeah, because he never said to the mom, Jane Fonda, like he never recognized the fact that she might be overpowering for J-Lo.
No, it's an enmeshed relationship. And the enmeshed relationship goes between her and son,
Right.
her and assistant, right? Her and J-Lo, which is interesting, right? Because it just keeps moving from one relationship to another.
Yeah.
So if it's not the son, it's going to be the daughter-in-law. If it's not the daughter-in-law, it's going to be the assistant. Somebody has got to fulfill the role,
Right.
in regards to that kind of enmeshed relationship.
Which is very strange, you know? Like, I don't know if you've ever met, I think I've met a couple of people who do try to enmesh themselves with you, and it's incredibly toxic.
Well, I mean, it has to be the norm for you, right? Like you have to have been brought up in that kind of system where it is that everybody's involved in everybody else's stuff, right? And it's always about total connectivity. Right? And so if you're not of that system and you enter into that system, it will appear to be toxic. Right? Like, where are the boundaries here? Wait a minute, there are no boundaries?
Well, it's interesting because in respect to J-Lo's character, it would seem toxic in my opinion because as her character, her parents died when she was very young, both of them. So she doesn't have that enmeshment kind of relationship with anyone.
That's, you know what? Totally true. Not only did it play out in the fact that she was an individualist, right? She was standing on her own 2 feet, but she had multiple endeavors going on all at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? She was constantly moving from one sort of employment to another.
Yeah.
Right? And so for her, it was really about that. But for the mother-in-law, it was about something totally different.
That's interesting that you mentioned that. I actually never thought about it because when you say that, J-Lo was a temp, so she was like a dog walker and a dentist assistant and things like that. But Jane Fonda's character was like headstrong, I'm going to stick with this. Like she was basically Oprah's character. I was told that I would never be successful, so I stuck with it until I was this millionaire interviewer.
So totally true, right? And so totally hierarchical about one thing, right? You need to know who it is that you are. And so, of course, it would totally create the sense of confusion as to who it is that this proposed daughter-in-law actually really is. Right? Multiple personas, multiple things going on. Right? Not that sense of enmeshment at all. Right? And so here it is, right? So this the premise of this movie was really, really interesting in that way, right? All of these different value systems coming together to create, well, who it is that we are in regards to our sense of family now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was almost like they were complete opposites. Like Jane Fonda was very structured in her job, but she kept moving around from husband to husband because she was divorced like 4 times.
Yeah.
The character anyway. And J-Lo like had never really been in a relationship, as the assistant Wanda Sykes figured out through her somehow web of spies that she had. But she was moving around as a temp in her job. So it was very interesting how they created these two characters that were not, you know, the same, trying to fit together.
Yeah, like, so here it is, right? Like, as much as it is that you can say the assistant stood on her own 2 feet, right? No, not true at all.
No, there was a line actually where she said like, "Oh, I'm going to stick with you because you promised me that facelift."
There you go. Exactly, right? So that relationship, again, totally enmeshed, right?
Yeah.
And even so much as when it is that Jane Fonda crossed the line, right, in regards to the daughter-in-law having a nut allergy and her saying, well, let's just put some nuts in this gravy. Right? And the assistant standing there going, oh, well, this is an issue, but basically went along with it.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. And so here we have this intergenerational system going on. So here we have Jane Fonda, whose mother-in-law was actually really even more hierarchical than what it is that she was, right? She actually really needed to have more in regards to specifics, organization, who is it that you are, right? You need to be somebody, and you will never measure up. Right? And then we have Jane Fonda, who, as a mother herself, is like, I have a doctor who's a son. He has measured up. I've created the continuation of the family. And so I am important and significant. And I need him to find someone who is also important and significant. And yet, what did he find? Someone who is just really bottom lining it all over the place.
Yeah. Even
Even worse off than me.
Yeah.
Right?
She actually referred to him as Jesus. She was like, I always saw him as, like, he looked like Jesus. That's a lot.
It is a lot,
Yeah.
And a lot to measure up to, really,
Yeah.
when you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, and then ensues this complicated relationship between who it is that's actually really going to, in essence, lead the family, which is going to be J-Lo, whoever it is that marries him, right? As compared to, of course, Jane Fonda, who had become somebody, right? Had overcome all odds to be who it is that she actually really is. And the reality of that sort of power struggle between the two, who is it that's actually really in charge?
Right.
Bottom lining it, I think every single family, when it is that there's a passing of the torch,
Right.
which is really what this represents, right? A passing of the torch, you know, comes to a place where it is that it's so very hard to pass that on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, it's just so interesting to be able to watch how it is the family system deals with that kind of situation. And I think that every family system comes to that place where it is really to do with the passing of that torch. Who am I going to pass this torch on to? Because even though really it's just a wedding.
Right.
Right? It really represents the fact that I am giving up my power to you.
Yeah.
Right? And is this a person I want to give my power up to?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's great that you say that because the movie, the conflict goes right up until the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Like she walks into the room wearing white.
Ultimate power struggle.
Oh, yeah. It's just so funny. I love the faces of everyone in that scene, just like,
Uh-huh. I'm actually really the bride here.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Hence where it is that Bridezilla comes from.
Yeah.
Yes. The ability to be able to actually really, move on from that place, take your rightful place as not, passing on the torch to son, daughter, right? Son-in-law, daughter-in-law, whatever it is that might be, allowing them to move on with their journey, the family name, that sort of thing. It is a very difficult developmental thing to do.
Right. It truly is. Yeah.
Yeah. To allow somebody else, in essence, to carry on the family name, to take the power.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a representation of a decline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which she didn't want. Like
No.
it said like at the beginning of the movie, Jane Fonda's character was being replaced by someone else who was going to host her show, and it was like the sign of the times.
Yeah, exactly, right? Even with the assistant saying, I'm sticking in for the facelift.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that, yes, Jane Fonda had been replaced at work with somebody younger. Right? That she was actually really, in essence, jobless at that time. Yeah. And so, really there's a sadness that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And I think that the son recognized that.
I think so too.
Yeah. And that was part of how come it was. He was really, playing in with the enmeshment.
Yeah.
And, saying to proposed daughter-in-law, you need to take mom in. Yeah. Take care of mom. Right? It was all about that. But the reality was, Mom actually really wasn't actually in that place yet.
No, she actually really wasn't.
No, she's still a fighter.
No.
Yeah, fighting for her place, right? Trying to find herself still in where it is that she was at that time.
Yeah. And
not knowing exactly where it was that she needed to be.
Well, I think that this movie is a really great example of why communication is so very important. Like, the son needed to communicate with the mom. Like, you need to tell me what you need, because the truth of the reality is, this is a situation that is happening. And then go back and communicate with his future wife, this is a situation that is happening, and he needed to be the mediator between the two. But of course, because it's a drama, and we need that juicy plot line, there couldn't be any communication at all.
Well, that's right, exactly. And then when it is that the proposed mother-in-law's actual mother-in-law walked in the door, and the reality of how hierarchical this family system is, and how it is that it's actually really viewed in a certain way. You took my son away from me.
Right.
Right? And so, I mean, it's meant for the audience to feel sad and bad for the fact that there is actually really a way in which this family system functions, as all family systems function, that says, oh, wow, you have come from a place of trauma. It makes sense that you are continuing to traumatize others, because the truth is that's all it is that you know, and you don't even know that.
Right.
Right? Makes it very complex and very sad.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What's that called? It's like, not tiered trauma, but not relational trauma, but when trauma is passed down through
Generational
trauma.
Generational trauma.
Right.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it makes the audience realize it's come from someplace, it's about something.
Right.
Right? And then the question is, but the bottom line question is, what do you do with that?
Right.
Right? As much as it is that it's about recognizing it, wow, that, my parent, my grandparent, whatever that might be, right? My in-law has actually come from a very difficult place, right? Has been traumatized previously. That's how come it is that they are what it is that they are.
Right.
Right? And then it becomes about accepting that fact.
Right.
Right? And then what is it that you do with that?
Right. Well, the way that the direction that they took it in the movie is that they said, the reason why she's acting this way, Jane Fonda is acting this way, is because she doesn't know her place anymore. And so JLo gave this very passionate speech where she's like, this is your place now. Like, we're going to have kids and you get to be there for these kids and you get to be in their lives and you get to be our support system and this wonderful being that's basically, we are your new family of fans. We are your new fans. This is, the dynamic that's going to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and the truth is, it's about being ready for it, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to really be ready to take on a new role, be ready to envelop that age and stage. And if you're not ready, which is really what this movie was about, then you're going to be in either fight or flight.
Right.
Right? And this movie is a really great representation of fight.
Yeah.
Here, have some nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think bottom lining it, right? We all have a vision in our mind of how it is that families need to go. It's all about the love and the, encompassing and incorporating everything and anything that comes the family's way. But the truth of the matter is that it is really based on individuals and where it is that they are actually really stuck. And it doesn't necessarily work that way.
No. Because what's interesting is that you actually had two moments in that movie that you did not approve of. You did not approve of the fact that JLo made this kind of soupy dish and Jane Fonda kind of face planted in it and was left asleep in it, which you said she would have drowned.
Yeah.
And then the second kind of comeback to that was when Jane Fonda mashed up the almonds and put it in the gravy and then fed it to the girl.
What's going on? What are you doing?
I'm behaving.
Viola, no! You can't! Charlie's allergic to nuts. Give it to me!
Mm-hmm.
So that she would have died too.
Yeah. Like, I think that there, as much as it is about fight, there are actually really lines that you do not cross.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that when it comes to asphyxiation, right? I really think that that's a line you do not cross. And whether that's to do with actually literally drowning or having your throat swell up so that you might die.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is that you just don't cross those lines.
Yeah. Do you have your pen and paper?
So I think that was a point in the movie where it was a little bit, too much.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that it is, just like what you were saying, it does come down to communication. Actually really talking it through, talking about what the expectations are, right? Whatever it is that the emotions are. Right? Wherever it is that you're coming from and whatever it is that fear is. Right. I think it's important to really talk about those things, to be able to come up with whatever, the plan of action is, to be able to move on, overcome, and get what it is that you're looking for. I think that that's really key.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this was very insightful. Yeah. thank you so much for talking to me about Monster-in-Law. Good movie. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, stay subscribed. And if you have any movies that you would like Dr. Laurie to review, please comment down below. We would love to do it.
All right. Thank you, and bye for now.
Bye.